Hey everyone, Sari here, and welcome back to another week of late season offense matches. After her wildly successful first round as a bonus week carry, I've really been looking forward to letting Ashe sweep another week. The extra stats let her work really well as an omni-tank with the right support. Her weapons auto-follow-up and follow-up denial work a lot like a full null follow-up, letting her use null seed disrupt as well to deal with any pesky sweep effects. Having tempo while transformed is really great for her too, giving her access to a near-guaranteed soul on her first counterattack. Supporting her with Mooseball really leans into that. The true damage he offers her with Domain of Flame, along with the extra 7 from her weapon, also adds into the healing she gets from Soul, and turns a Soul into a legitimately damaging special in the bargain. Speed Reslink gives Ashe easy access to a full spectrum of buffs when combined with an in-season legendary Eliwood, who also happens to be an excellent way to both soak Bright Shrines and disarm any pre-charged specials on the defense team. Using a Mythic as the team's only carry gives them enough room to fit in a third support, and Flade's a great fit for that role. Sudden Panic is a great answer to Medeus in light weeks, and the damage reduction she offers Ashe helps the soul-powered sustain train continue through entire enemy teams. Milla and Peony, as usual, are both excellent options for support mythics. The combination of Isolation and Mobility Dance and combat stats never stop being useful, and the Sabotage Defense is a great way to help Ashe secure one-shots as well. Now that we've gone over the team, let's get to the first match. This match is going to be a fun way to start off the week. I don't see Fallen Berkut very much, and this is actually a really cool build for him. The combination of Deflect Melee and Courtly Candle means that as long as he's engaging against a Sword, Lance, or Axe user, it's extremely hard to actually knock him out in the enemy phase, which will usually let him get a very safe lunge and let this Wings of Mercy Tsubasa come in and probably pick something off. Tsubasa is another unit that you don't see often on defenses, so it can be easy enough to underestimate her, but if Berkut lunges first, she ends up getting plus 24 attack and speed, and Desperation, which can punch through a lot of opponents. They're backing that up with a very impressive La Rochelle in the backline, who can also do a lot of work if you're not taking her seriously, and of course the Leaf can do the same. While I don't think he's as much of a menace as he used to be, he's still pretty solid. And the young La Rochelle, who's also in the backline, is a good way to help mess with anybody who just tries to plonk up here and potentially engage on Berkut and then tank, along with, of course, the Note Menace and this plus 10 Raven in the corner. Without a Dancer and being the 7th slot unit, it's a little hard for him to get involved in the fight immediately, but he can do a very good job of following through if someone tries to hit and run by knocking out Leaf, for example, and then backing up. It's a neat setup. It's very cool to see some of these units just because you don't really get to see them very often. And I'm going to end up taking one turn set up before we get things going. I just want to get everybody into position on this left side so that it's not too hard for us to tank this afterwards. In these dents, let's flame jump past her and break this cake, and then we'll just move Mooseball up here. And Ashe over so she can transform next turn, and we'll just say go. From here, we're going to have a bit of a convoluted way to get in position. After swapping Ashe over, we'll dance Mooseball, which lets Milla jump over here and reposition her forwards. And she can move into range onto this heavy trap, which is fake, and she'll just end up tanking from here. Slane's going to pick up our first Aether pot, and Mooseball will move into support. We don't actually have to worry so much about this Berkut build, since Deflect Melee doesn't actually work on beasts. So she won't have any problems actually knocking him out, and thanks to Null Seed Disrupt, she doesn't care about La Rochelle either. Leaf can get some damage to stick here, thanks to Fatal Smoke, but he's not going to survive this combat, and nobody else should be able to do very much damage to Ashe at all. Nope. La Rochelle moves into heal, but that's fine. And, well, especially with that extra 20 damage he took, Berkut's not surviving this fight. And the other La Rochelle just helpfully heals us all the way back to full health. And then we just close things out with Tsubasa.
Do try to understand.
And knock out most of the threats on their team. And then we should just be able to move Ash and move Spool over a little bit.
Truly?
And sit on this heavy trap, which is the real one this time. Move this Spool over to support, and let Flame continue working our way towards the second Aether pot. And say go. The panic manner means that even with the Menace, Note is just not a threat.
Consider it done.
And now that Larashal doesn't have a target to heal instead of attacking, she'll get herself knocked out too.
Please forgive me.
And Raven just moves over, can't reach us here.
Of course.
So we'll just have Flame pick up our pot, swap Ash forwards,
Lord Asker
and let her move in and close out the match. That was a fun way to start the week. This map should be a fun clear. They've got a Medeus Catria ball here with a near-save Brave Edelgard and a far-save Hector guarding their squad. These two make a very strong defensive line, especially with Medeus and Kanto control, helping to shut down any hit-and-run approaches, while Catria is a great enabler for the Duo Chrom and the Bramond in the backline. There's a nice little rally trap here with Bramond too, since if he can't attack, he'll jump forward to rally Medeus and then get danced by Eldgun. And from his new position, he can pick a much better target and fight than he might otherwise be able to do. This plus 10 Eldgun is also fun to see, although it's a bit of an oof when he just got into the Hall of Worms. But I guess when he's already plus 10, they don't need to worry too much about picking one up there. I'm going to take a couple of turns to set up for this one, mostly just because I need to break this panic manner before we get things started. But once we do, this should be a pretty clean sweep for us.
Fancy that.
I do need to be careful too, this threat range doesn't quite tell the whole story on the first turn, since Edelgard does self-buff for extra movement.
Is something afoot?
But Flame can still move forward to break this, and then I'll be able to move Ash over here, alley it over, and Bella's just going to find herself a neat little dragon cave in the corner here. We're not trying to isolate Eldgun, it's mostly about making sure this Bramland doesn't rally.
Of course.
And Flame is able to move in and break the panic manner, then get danced and pull Peony to safety. And then we'll swap Flame.
Let's see now.
And smite her forward a little bit. And then say go. And then from here we can swap Ash forwards and complete her buff set.
Good morning.
Then dance Mooseball. And start moving everybody into position. We'll smite Mooseball forward to make sure he can continue helping Ash.
Of course.
And Flame's just going to move here. And we'll say go. If I've done my math right, I think the only person on their team who does damage is this Bramland. And while we didn't actually give Ash her follow-up denial, none of the team should be able to actually take advantage of that. Medeus goes in next, he's the one with the least health to lose from here. But it's not really doing him any good. Especially when Ash actually beats his res check. Eldgun moves into dance, and Chrom moves in with his quads and his Deadeye.
Will this do?
Deadeye doesn't do very much when his base damage is 0. Catria moves in next and can get a Moonbow in.
We bring love.
Which also doesn't do any damage.
Please forgive me.
And then I think Edelgard's the one who moves next, since she has less health than Hector. Which just ends up meaning that Hector doesn't get to use his bonfire. before we knock him out.
Do try to understand.
And down he goes. Then
What's your
from here it
plan?
should be pretty easy to close things out. We'll just Smite Flame over and test the trap,
Is something
and then
afoot?
let her move down and break the Aether pot for us.
Fancy that.
And Mooseball can just pick up the second one,
Lord, ask
and
her
we should
guide us.
be able to close things out by having Ash knock out Eldgun. The 50% does a lot for him on that first hit,
Lord,
but
ask her.
it's not going to save him from the second. This match should be a pretty straightforward one. They've got a kind of classic array of threats here with the Windsweep Selena and Duo Leaf in the back line. These two always present a pretty significant threat for any ranged tank to handle, since one of them can prevent counterattacks, and the other one just has auto follow-ups and punches through any passive damage reduction. Protecting them with this Fjorm is a nice way to avoid hit-and-run attempts. And this Eldigan on the front line is really bulky, especially thanks to this Menace, and his Courtly Candle, which makes it really hard to actually break through him in one round of combat. They've also got another Menace behind him on this note, which means that if you actually use this defense tile, you end up taking a full set of -6 stats, which makes it a lot harder to actually survive all of this, even with the defense tile bonuses. We've also got this Sothis as an extra frontliner, who I think is mostly just here for the lift loss and the stat boost she gives her allies, and a Fallen Edelgard, who's not boxed into a corner, so you actually do have to start worrying about her after you engage this map. It's a pretty straightforward setup, and I don't think we're going to have too many problems here. It should be a pretty clean win, I think. I'm just making sure we isolate Note here. We get Eldgun too, but making sure this rally doesn't go off and mess with our plan is
I
an
do not
important part of
object.
this. We'll be able
It
to get
will be
things
done.
going right away here. I'm just going to
Ready.
dance Ash and then swap her forwards with Mistball. We are going to make sure we actually get her
Lord,
follow-up
ask her
denial
guide us.
online this time, since it will help against this Leaf, I
Let's see
think.
now.
And just Smite Flame over and
course.
move her into the corner. Even with the stats being debuffed across the board, they shouldn't really have any problems punching through this Leaf. Yeah, Ash shouldn't have any problems with it.
Do try to understand.
In part thanks to that Mooseball boosted soul. And from here we should just go down the health line. So this moves in first, but she's only really going to heal Ash all the way back to full health. And then Note moves in and, well, Panic means she's not having a good time with this either.
Do try to understand.
And even Eldigan is just not going to survive this. The Panic is again coming in really useful for this part, since he might actually have had a chance of surviving if his Menace wasn't getting panicked. And Nullsea Disrupt means Selena doesn't get anything done either.
Do try to understand.
Which just leaves Fjorm and Edelgard to deal with.
Is
And from
something
here we're
afoot?
just going to take it easy, pick up these pots, and close out the match.
Good morning.
We'll handle Fjorm first,
Now.
since she's nearer,
Lord,
and
ask her
actually,
guide
after
us.
a little bit more consideration, we are actually going to go ahead and finish this turn and test this trap. Even if it's a 50 damage trap, Ash should still be able to tank this Edelgard, and it's not, so we're a lot safer than I expected.
What's your plan?
That's okay. I was a little concerned since, well, Edelgard is someone to take seriously if you're just letting her attack you, but Ash should actually be able to finish her off in one round of combat, and not take any damage from it while she does.
Do try to understand.
And there we go. This match will be a fun one near the end of the week. They've got a couple of very highly invested units here, including this plus 10 maxed out of season Byleth. It's very impressive. Even out of season, I think he can do quite a lot of work, especially for breaking through Hectors. The speed-based null follow-up can be pretty useful for his allies too, although Chrom's the one who's most likely to take advantage of it, at this plus 7 plus speed and double fury, but they ended up giving him null follow-up to use for himself, so it doesn't actually do that much for him. It can help this Catria if she gets onto a target while Byleth is still alive, but since she is the 7th unit, it's a little tricky for that to happen. And then, of course, a note in the corner to round things out. I do like this infantry pulse on Ninian. It does actually help accelerate Medeus' special a little bit, and help him actually fire a Glimmer. Although he doesn't get it fully charged, and is also out of range of Catria, so no triangle attacks for him. It does, on the other hand, fully charge Chrom's Deadeye, so he just has that available on turn 1. This hindrance is actually really nicely placed too, with the fortress in the forest, to help protect it from getting sniped before the fights get going. It's a pretty neat setup overall. I don't think we're going to have too many issues here. It should be pretty straightforward overall, and we should be able to get things going pretty early. I'm going to take this first turn just to clear out some structures and open the map up a little bit, and also wait for Ash to transform. And we should be able to get going from there.
Maybe this way.
What's your plan?
We don't have to worry too much about the threat ranges here. It sticks to the original danger zone, so as long as we keep everybody out of that threat range, Ash should have no problems handling this entire team. I don't actually have to worry about this Panic Manor since it's not upgraded enough to affect Ash, and since there aren't any rallies to worry about either, we should just be able to tank through this team. So move Eliwood over here and make sure he gets buffed enough to continue soaking the Sprite Shrine. Move Mistball into buff as well. And say go. Byleth should be the first one to attack here, as Sublime Heaven should be the only thing that actually does damage to Ash.
Here is something to believe in.
But it's not going to be quite enough to finish her off.
Please forgive me.
And while not having any bonus stats means that we're not gaining as much health as I'd like from that fight, it doesn't matter too much if the rest of his team can't follow through.
Please forgive me.
And Medeus just goes down pretty easily. Damage reduction or not, he's not having a good time there when she can cancel out his follow-up shenanigans.
For Lord Oscar.
And Deadeye doesn't do much without any damage to scale off of. And the isolated minion just moves in to continue making life easy for us.
Consider it done.
And Idun just can't quite catch us here.
Is
And
something
from here we
afoot?
can just continue going on down the chain. This being the real trap is actually a bit surprising to me, and does make it a little more annoying to move in and tank everything this turn, but it really shouldn't be that big of a deal. I'll just move everybody over and have Ash move in and take down Idun. We're not going to heal as much as we could here, but Idun also doesn't do that much damage, and there aren't any triangle attacks left to worry about.
Forgive me.
So it should be pretty smooth sailing from here.
My turn?
Ready.
Oops, we'll just dance Eliwood.
This way.
Make sure we get all those buffs again. And tank Catria. Whose Lancebreaker is not doing her any good against non-Hector shaped targets. And then from here, I'll just go ahead and test this trap, see how much damage it does. Oh, it's a pretty lightweight trap. I really wish I could go back and use that level 1 trap, honestly. It would be a lot better than the upgraded version these days. This match is going to be a really fun one at the end of the week, with my first +10 Medeus in his bonus week getting spotted. The attack res unity is a really nice touch on him. I do think it's probably his best ace slot, since it stops people from exploiting the bonuses of his weapon with a panic effect, and makes it a lot easier for him to secure the effects of his B skill. We're backing that up with a near-save Fallen Edelgard. He's also using a Unity. Attack defense is actually a better option for her, I think, since even though she doesn't get to protect the res buff that Medeus gives her, her defense is a much more useful stat to protect as a melee save unit. And then they've also got this +10 for save Rhea as their ranged bodyguard. Seeing Distant Storm on her already is actually really cool. I think it's a good option for her since it really helps double down on her one-shot potential with this true damage that she gets on the first attack every combat. And it also makes her a pretty spooky multi-phase threat with this Catria involved. They've also got 2 dancers on their team, this Ninian and this Dorothea, both with cross-spur attack, which does a lot for this Yuri and his almost pre-charged lethality. Setting the lethality up to land on the second hit is a good way to get around hardy fighter armors, since you can turn off their special with the first hit and then hit them with full damage lethality after that. There's even a bit of a dance trap here with Ninian, who will jump forward to dance Edelgard thanks to Catria's orders buff, and that can extend the threat range of this team out a little past what you might be expecting. The chills from Dorothea are also a bit of a nuisance too, especially since they are going to target Ashe here. But I think we should be okay, as long as I play this out correctly and have figured out the order they should attack in. I'm going to take this first turn just to set up and open up these structures,
Fancy that. My turn?
and also make sure that we get Ninian isolated for this next turn. And from here, we're actually going to end up getting in a very tight-knit formation up in the enemy team's zone of control. Since by blocking Ashe here, we actually stop them from reaching these tiles, and since Medeus should always attack after Catria, since neither of them can actually do damage to Ashe until after Yuri debuffs her, this should end up being a safe spot for Moosebolt to stand as well. I'll just move Mila up here to test a trap,
What's your plan?
move Eluid over as well, and say go. Let's see if I figured this out correctly. I think Catria is the first one to move into attack here. No. And she's just not going to be able to get damage done.
By your side. For Lord Asker.
And with Medeus standing in the way, Yuri, when he moves into attack here, I think, yeah, only has one target that he can go after. And while he does get to use this lethality, it's just not enough to
Try to understand.
get a lot of damage to stick. And even with the res debuff, Ashe should be able to actually knock this Medeus out in 1 hit, or 2 hits. And he doesn't get to quad her since, well, he's more than fast enough to speed check that follow-up denial. Oh, no, he does survive, so he'll get danced here then and get an iceberg off. But Ashe should be able to survive that without too many issues.
Burn in the pits of hell.
Do try to understand.
And then Rhea should move in and get her true damage, but the true damage is all she's going to get here. And she doesn't even get that. Right, because it turns off when Ashe is below half health, so it doesn't really end up going so well for her, and well, Ninian Triangle Attacker No is just not going to get damage done here.
Consider it done.
And down she goes. And from here, we're just going to style a little bit and let Ashe attack directly into this Edelgard with the safe skill online for some extra bonuses, and take her down. We're not going to worry about Dorothea here, since I still want to chase after the pots, just to complete the map properly. And Moosebolt shouldn't have any trouble just baiting Dorothea and tanking her for us. We'll just smite Milla forwards here. Okay, get the real trap this time.
Away we go.
And break this panic manner. And dance Flame.
Like this.
Let Milla pick up the Bolt Tower.
Of course.
And Flame pick up the Hindrance, and we'll get the pots next turn. Dorothea goes after Mooseball, but yeah. Even with that res flaw, he's not going to have any trouble in this situation. And then Flame grabs her first pot, Milla gets a second, and we'll let Ash close out the week. That was a fun one. It's nice to see some really highly invested units like that. This was a really fun week overall. It's good to see Ash getting to carry again. And bonus weeks are always just a lot of fun. I am sorry that the video is a bit shorter this week than usual. I wasn't able to record a few of the videos while I was out of town, but things should get back to normal for the next week. And I'll probably be using some of the new Fallen units next week too for their second bonus week, so it'll be a chance to actually give them some time in the spotlight too. I do have a Discord server if you'd like to hang out and chat. There's a link in the description, and I also have a Patreon link there too if you'd like to help support the channel. As always, I hope you've enjoyed the video, good luck with your own matches, and I'll see you next time.